Hello, everybody. Hello, lovely people. Really happy to be here. It's been a while now. It's been like a month. Unfortunately, my guest for the episode 2 weeks ago had some family issues, so it was too last minute to like find a new guest and record the show. So I decided to take some Devrel show vacation for a 2 week, but we are back. I don't know if we're back strong today because of the guest, but
I like to think.
no,
I like to think so.
I know. I'm just being an asshole right now because Joel is a friend and I'm just picking on him. But one thing, like two things that I'm excited today. First one, it's episode 20. I don't know if it's a milestone whatsoever. For me, it's just like a round number, which means that like I have 20 episodes so far, which is pretty exciting to me to be able to do that show. And the second thing I'm excited about, I have Joel with me today as my guest. How is life?
Not bad, not bad. Technically, you haven't had 20 shows yet.
You're right. You're right. So I think we're
You're
gonna end the
almost. You're
show
almost there.
right. I think we're gonna end the show right now because the guest is being annoying. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. I saw your face when I said that, and I was like, "What did I say wrong?" And I was like, until you spoke, and I was like, "Oh yeah, come on, man." I heard what you were saying. It's true. I did not do 20 episodes, but it's the 20th episode, and I'm just excited about that. It's like any project. If you start with an idea, and at some point it become a thing, and it continued to become a thing, which is also something special for me because I'm really ADHD, and I go from one project to the other. So like keeping doing this one it's interesting for me, but it's not a challenge. It's just lovely to be able to talk with guests like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Congrats on your 20th, then.
No, I didn't do 20 episode yet. But thanks. I appreciate that. It's just fun to. I know I'm repeating myself for people that are watching the show that are not new to the show. I think I say that once in a while, but like having the pleasure to take time with other developer advocates or people around developer relation to just have a friendly discussion about our industry, about what we love, about what we maybe not love that much, and also the demo part, which is really interesting to me too, because for I would say at least half of the technical demos I've had so far, I did not know the technology at all. So that was also an opportunity, really selfishly, for me to learn about new stuff, which is going to happen today. I have no idea about the product that Joel's going to demo today, but enough me talking. Joel, who are you?
Well, I'm Joel. Hi, everybody. So happy to be here on the show. Well, as most people probably guessed by now, I am working in Devrel. So I do lead a team of Devrelians, Devrelers
I
at
have no
MongoDB.
idea.
I don't know. We should coin a term for that. So I'm based in Canada, also French Canadian. And it was really weird because right before the show we were speaking in French. So I'm still trying to do that context switch in my brain, but I'm getting there. But yeah, I've been in Devrel since officially Devrel roles for quite a while now. I'd say over 10 years for sure. And I've been doing some community building activities before that, and so on. So it's been a while. It's been a long ride now.
It's been a while. Yeah, that's true. On the language side, it's funny because I was going to kind of like introduce that show as like two French Quebecois speaking person doing the show in English, which is not our main language. Like it's not our first language to both of us, but I assume our accents are not that bad. And Joel, I don't know. I struggle to say your first name in English. I say Joel like jewelry you're wearing. It's because in French it's Joel. So
So I go
I
by Joel in English usually,
Joel.
like Billy Joel.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. God, yeah. Makes makes so much sense. So yeah, no, that's interesting. And as I said before, we know each other in person. One thing that you just said is interesting. I was talking, I do some free coffee chat with people. If they want to talk about anything and everything. Quite often, it's people who are starting in tech or junior people. They're looking for their next job and they want tips. But this week, I had a discussion with someone who is working in tech for longer than me. And first, that was amazing talking. Not that I don't like talking to people that have less experience, but it was nice that it was not like a question-driven coffee chat. That was more like, hey, let's just get to know each other because we both work in tech, and like it's a big and small world. And we're talking each other about our experience. And when I told him, I was like, yeah, you know what? It's been, I don't know, since 2011, maybe. I'm a developer advocate, and it was like, oh shit, like you were not a lot at the beginning, and I was like, no, and it was mostly big companies. So you're part of like that, those not many people who are doing this for a long time, which doesn't make us better than other people, but just curious about that. What brings you to developer relation? Because as far as I remember, you were doing other stuff before. Like it was not the beginning of your tech career.
No, I've been in tech for well, I graduated from school in the last millennium. That's how I like to put it. So I've been in tech for a while. I've been doing a lot of different things around tech. I took a small break at some point because I was working. I'm in the Ottawa area, as I said, right? And Ottawa's kind of a very boring city with a lot of public servants, and the technology world in Ottawa is not very exciting. So there's a lot of government work, and so I was young, and I wanted to move fast and break things, and it wasn't quite the
Yeah.
startup type of mentality. uh, so I did take a small break at some point. I went to study in physics, but I did meet with a teacher there who is absolutely amazing. He did computational simulations in astrophysics, which was really, really great because I came in with my programming background. I was able to work with him, and I've learned so much. But we both got to work together for a summer, and it was such an exciting opportunity to be back into programming and really get my hands dirty with software engineering with Fortran at the time, which was amazing.
Okay, yeah. Yeah.
Oh well, I mean, I'm not that old, but that's the language that was used before Python in academics. So and it brought me back to my roots of software engineering, which I really, really liked, and I fell back in love. I then realized that it didn't have to be boring stuff and all about planning and waterfall planning and all that stuff. So and an interesting thing that I really got out of that those couple of years back in university was that teacher was, or that professor was, all about trying to educate other people. So he was really inspired by the Carl Sagan and Hubert Reeves of this world, and he really was always about like trying to make sure that we explain things to the rest of the world in very, very simple words, which I absolutely love as an approach, which obviously was kind of what I do now. So I got a lot of that from that little break that I took from software engineering.
That's amazing. Like how, like there's many parts that are amazing, but the fact that like your journey brought you out of tech a little bit, you came back, but it was not totally related, but it gave you like that passion back of like, oh yeah, now I need to go back in tech, but also having like that influence in your life that seems to bring you much more than like just what that person had to teach you or do with you. So that's an interesting story. And if I bring you back to right now, so right now you are, I was looking at the title, you are a lead developer relations, meaning that like you lead developer relation. Like, what is a lead developer relation? What do you do? What is your day to day?
Well, just as everything else in Devrel, right? What's your day today? It depends. And I don't know. Nobody knows what's our
I
day today.
realized when I said that, and like when people ask me, so what are you doing day to day? I'm like, which day do you want? Like,
Yeah, exactly. So I wake up at 8. No, no. I mean, there's so many different things. But what changed? So recently, I moved into or transitioned into this new role, which is more of a lead position. That happened over the February March kind of time frame. So I moved from being very active, like an individual contributor, actively contributing content, doing a lot of we were doing a lot of hands-on workshop type of activities. So doing all of those exercises, writing the content, delivering the content, into more a role where I overlook a little bit more a team. I have a couple of people working with me, and we try to work together to achieve different goals. I moved into a slightly different team as well. So Devrel is such a big world. There's so many different roles and different things that you can do. So this role is slightly different. We're a little bit more focused around different programming language communities. And then I'm helping to make sure all the work that we do brings the most impact as we can into those developer communities, and obviously, ultimately, for our organization.
that's interesting. Again, multiple things that are interesting. I would like to come back. I'm probably going to forget half of them. But the first thing that struck me is you said like you were doing Devrel, you're still doing Devrel, but you change teams, meaning that like MongoDB is either big enough, which is the case, or the developer relations, like how it's managed, it's big enough that like you can have multiple teams. I don't know if you can share a little bit about the fact that like there is multiple teams and like focus on how it's working, because most companies, or I should say like smaller companies, like there's one DevRel team, and usually it's a small team, and usually it's a team of one. You also, so like first, just the facts you have other people, it changed the dynamic, but the fact that there's different DevRel teams, it's something that I've seen a little less. Like it was like that when I was at Microsoft, but I'm curious to understand a little more how it's working at I was going to say Mozilla at MongoDB.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's an interesting. Again, we've discussed a little bit about that before the call, but because I've been in startups and then I've been to very, very, very large companies. And now I'm at MongoDB. So MongoDB, for context, is about 5,000 employees.
Oh wow.
I haven't checked recently, but give or take maybe 100. So it's kind of a mid-size. So it's getting large enough that we need to be structured a lot more than smaller startups, but it's still not Microsoft size where it's like huge and people are in different teams that they never talk to each other. So we're kind of in that middle place. So we have a number of different teams, and they have different, very different objectives that they're trying to achieve. So as I said, I was on a team that is called developer enablement. And it's really focused on trying to make sure we train developers, so potentially people that are very close to becoming our customers or existing customers, maybe, or small teams at existing customers that don't use MongoDB yet, and deliver hands-on training to make sure that they understand how to use their product. MongoDB is a great product, but you need to understand how to use it. Like there's a learning curve there. So we're really working there. And now on the other team, which is technical marketing, a lot more focused on content. So that's the team that you'll see like pretty much all the blogs that come out, all the live streams that we do. Those all come from the technical marketing team.
Okay. Okay, I like that. I like that, and yeah, for some context, when I was at Microsoft, it did change a lot the structure of the teams. But at that time, because as I said, Microsoft was so big, we had developer relations team per countries. So because again, Microsoft was like everywhere and like every places, it made sense. Not every countries, but most countries, it made sense to have a team there. And at that time, the structures that we had like two. Not in every countries, but at least I was at Microsoft Canada, because I also, as Joel said, I also live in Canada, and my territory was Canada. And we had two developer relations teams. So one that we call a breadth team, which was the kind of like the usual developer relations team that you see, like the one speaking at events, talk to as many people as possible, like creating content, like all the things that developer relations do. And we had more like a dev team that was like focused to specific customers. So they were still doing developer relations. They were still like speaking at conferences, but it was like business centric conferences where some of our customers were they were participating in like internal conferences of like those like bigger customers. They were doing a little more also of support engineering than what we were doing in the breadth team, because Microsoft was so big, they had like support team for like each project. So we were not doing it that much unless I was face to face with you at an event or we're talking on social media. Most of the time, you had like a direct line to any other support teams or other ways to ask for help. So it is how it was defined at the time, but I'm talking about 13 years ago. I know a couple of years ago they made a big change and like they decided to structure the team more in terms of like focus and global team in terms of like, hey, your focus, let's say it's a cloud, and like the cloud team of evangelists or developer advocate, they were a little bit around the world, but they were focusing on the same technology or the same like audience. So they changed it a little bit. But yeah, I like the fact that MongoDB is investing in developer relation and find it important enough that like there's multiple team with multiple focus. So that's quite interesting there.
Yeah, and those seems to be like from what I've heard from other conversations, this seems to be like kind of the general ways to structure larger teams, either geographically
Yeah.
distributed, which makes a lot of sense because it can be hard. My team is distributed around the world. Sometimes having a call with folks from Australia, folks from Europe, and people on the West Coast of the US, it can be really, really tricky. So there's like no time zone that works. Like
someone's gonna need to start their day really early or finish their day really late. It's one of the two cases. I was curious. I don't know if you want to share, but now you kind of like out of a high C role. I'm curious what brought you to like a lead role, because let's be honest, when it comes to developer advocate roles, like there's different level of seniority, but there is no real like next step outside of like you continue to be an IC or you become a lead, and you decided to become a lead, which is fine. But I'm just curious if you want to share like what brought you to like a lead role.
That's a good question. It's something that I missed in this role, really. Like I before moving officially into Devrel, I was an engineering manager, and there was
Okay.
a lot of things that I did not like about that job. But there are some things about that I really enjoyed, and the people management aspect of things is one thing that I really like. Being able to work together as a team to build things to me was something that is very near and dear to my heart. Something that I really like to do. So I really wanted to get that aspect back into my current or my career. So that's why I moved transitioned into a lead position. But not everybody wants to do that. So I think it's fair, and we're seeing more and more companies that have like individual contributor career path that'll go and where they can really specialize and really spend many years without necessarily moving into that manager type of position.
Yeah, because that was the thing, and and I feel it's the same thing with like engineering developer role, where it seems like there's no real next step at most company. It's either like you continue to be a developer or you start to manage a team, which, as you said, like many people don't want to do it, and some people are not fit to do it because you need different skills. Like it's not just about coding anymore. Like you need to manage people. And I remember I managed people in the past, and there is, as you said, there is parts that I love, there's part that I'm not a huge fan of, and it also comes with like a leadership position, which also bring other stuff that I like and that I don't like. So it's not for everyone, but I felt like for a long time that was kind of like one of my pet peeve in tech, that like if I feel like developer advocate didn't really have like a next step. There's no career ladder, as you said, and that was the same thing for developer. And I felt like at many places they were pushing developers to be like, hey, you're good at what you do, you're one of our best, like you should start to manage a team. And now you reach the, how do you call that, like the Peters principle, where like people reach the level where they reach their incompetency level, which is not what you want in an organization. Like you want to keep like your people that are doing great job in the job that they're doing well. But I'm sure it's not your case. You didn't reach the Peter principle. I know you. I'm pretty sure you're really good at what you're doing. So if someone from East team is listening right now, please tell us if it's the case or not.
They're probably all in bed by now because time zones.
Oh, so it's why we're like, yeah, we're gonna be in the show, but it needs to be at 3 p.m. Speaking of like leading and like responsibilities and stuff like that, actually it's no relation with what I'm gonna say, but I just wanted to look brilliant by bringing the question related to what you said, what you were saying, but it's actually previously to two things you said before. Now you work in a big company. I know you said like not Microsoft big, but like it's big. MongoDB is big. I think you have like 6,000 employees now. I was looking at LinkedIn, like it's even more than what you said, which is a big company because let's be honest, most people work in smaller company, maximum of 500, sometimes 100. Many people work in startups, which is also a new thing in developer relation. I remember when we started, it was mostly medium-sized big companies, but now like every startups. I remember I work at startup where I was like the third or fourth employees, and it was like you don't even have like a full-fledged engineering team, or sometimes they did not even have like a product that I could like talk about, and like they wanted to hire a developer advocate. But long story short, my question is more, how do you feel about working in a big company? There is some pros and cons. I don't know if you feel in a good spot to share about those, but I would be curious to learn more your view on that.
Yeah, there's definitely it's definitely very different. There's things that I do miss from the startup world, and there are things that I absolutely don't miss. Again, it's always right. It's never
Yeah,
all black or all white. Definitely some of the big changes that I've seen working from very small startup. I was at Auth0 when it was kind of a young company, still
yeah, I
way
remember.
before the acquisition by Okta, and that ability of just moving really fast and just breaking things, and they were literally at the time at Auth0, and for a security company that's kind of scary, but they had like a huge poster in their office that said "fuck it, ship it." It was literally about like all about like pushing things. If it doesn't work, revert as soon as you can, just
Mhm.
fix it, and push it back. um and of course there was they were still very careful
Yeah,
about
yeah.
security. It's not I don't want to
People understood. I hope.
I don't want to hurt their stock price. But it was really about moving things really, really fast. And it also applied to our Devrel program as well. So we were all about experimenting, trying things. It doesn't work, let's try something else. And even our team was all very junior in that role. So we were kind of experimenting, and just trying different things. So there's a lot of flexibility, a lot more thing from that perspective. At larger companies, there's always different people involved. I'm thinking of one person in particular at the moment who's, if he listens to the show, he will be laughing so hard because I'm always trying to do stuff in a startup way. I'm just trying to break things. It's like, wait a minute, we need to think about it. We need to involve this department, and we need to involve this department because it actually involves all of those people. So there's a lot more processes, and that's not a bad thing, because you can't always be breaking things. Like, you have to think
Yeah.
about it, and it's probably a good thing that they stop me from time to time. So, so it's, there's different things when it comes to this type of work. But on the other hand, large organizations have so many resources, so many people that can provide insights as well. So when I do take a step back and I say, okay, let's wait and let's see and let's go through the process, there's always huge learnings. I can't tell you the number of things that I've learned because I've had to spend so many times recently with marketing teams, and I've always tried to stay as far as I could from marketing and sales because like those are things that I don't want to deal with. But I've learned so many things. I've actually learned to almost love going into Salesforce and looking at some of the metrics that we have.
No, what?
I said almost, like not
Okay.
quite there, but it's interesting, and understanding how we can measure the impact of the things that we're doing is really, really interesting. So having this big organization with all those resources and all those knowledgeable people, and sharing that knowledge is something that is maybe a little bit harder to see and to have into those small startups.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm my team, if they're watching this, they're gonna laugh because I'm in a startup right now, and like any startup, we are slowly adding processes and trying to do things a little bit better. And I'm the whole guy yelling at the cloud all the time about like, hey, we should do this and we should do that. And they welcome that, which is a good thing because I still have a job. So they welcome it. And but the thing though is that it's made with love, like when I do those suggestions, and it's because I've been doing that for so long. Like I've been in tech for 20 something years. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I don't have the only truth, but I have a pretty good idea about how most of the things should be done. Again, and that sounds fucking pretentious now that I'm saying it. With that said though, I'm a fan of having proper processes in place, because when you grow, it's impossible to be the free for all and to break things all the time. As much as I like it too, I think it's important to have those processes. What I don't like is processes for the sake of processes, like those beautiful red tape that we call when we're frustrated, or those I call that with absolutely no respect, the CGI meeting where you have like 10,000 people around the table, and nobody can really take a decision, and you need to involve too many people that are not really stakeholder, but just for the sake of like them feeling important or like feeling that they have a word to say. So those things I do not like, but I really understand the processes. But I so understand also we're a startup. Let's break things and just do what needs to be done without having like 10 meetings. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that though.
Yeah, definitely. Like my career at the government of Canada really felt like that. It was a lot of,
Hmm.
let's schedule a meeting, but there was no agenda, and then everybody grouped at around the table, and they were like, "Well, so who called the meeting? Why are we here?" And nobody really knew. And then after 30 minutes, it was like, "Well, might as well go back to our offices."
That's funny and sad at the same time. It's and I
That's
have
where your
friends who
vacuum
work.
filled.
Yeah, I have friends who work at the government, and all respect for what they do. Like they're providing services, they're building stuff. And at some point, like I got approached 2 or 3 times in my career, and I was like, I would really love that because I see a lot of things that I would like to improve in our services as a user. But fuck no, that won't happen. I mean, there is no way I'm going to spend like 10 meetings and 4 weeks to do something that will take me 1 hour if everything goes wrong by myself. I mean, I'm going to die there. So I need to find the right middle between like, yeah, we have processes because we want to be efficient and effective, but like it's not like overkilling stuff. So yeah, no. I totally understand that. Um, I have 1 or 2 questions in my mind that I didn't ask since forever a guest. They're kind of like generic questions, but I like to ask them once in a while to get a different perspective. And because you've been doing that for a long time, uh, the first one is really like, what do you like being a developer advocate, and what are the things you maybe not like so much in your job?
Well, being in Devrel is the best job ever. Like, right? Like, I think that's. I just came back with Devrel from DevrelCon last week actually, and I'm pumped. Like, I'm just like just got all of that energy back.
Don't
Wasn't
get
it
me
great? Right?
fuck you. So I wasn't sure if you were serious and you just think we missed each other. Oh no, I told you I like Asaria was really I just said fuck you to Joe, but I told you he's a friend of mine. But I was supposed to. Okay, let me take 1 minute for that. I need to get it out because I'm still a little bit frustrated about that. I was supposed to go to DevrelCon. DevrelCon is not a new conference; it's been there for years, and I was at companies before when going to DevRelCon Japan was not an issue. Like I could have went to like any DevRelCon, but for every DevRelCon possible that existed before, I already had like a prior engagement speaking at a conference or team offsite or something that prevented me to go. But they were far away and it was okay. It's just like I was not able to physically be there because other engagement. That was the first one that I was like, I have absolutely nothing on my agenda. It's perfect. On top of that, it is in New York, which is like, it's next to where I live. I mean, like it's in the US, but like I'm in Montreal. It's like a 1 hour and a half flight or something. And just prior to the CrowdStrike issues, they had like weather issues like in New York, and many flights got canceled, delayed, and actually like they rebooked me 2 or 3 times, and the last time because they were delaying all the flights and everybody, the last time that they rebooked me, I was able to arrive only like at half of the second day of the conference, which was the last day, and I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense for me anymore to go. So I just said fuck that, and I was really sad. And I was even sadder when I talked to another friend who was there on the Saturday, on the not the Saturday, the Thursday evening. And she was like, "Are you not in Montreal?" I was like, "Yes." And I was like, "No, I could have like took my car. It was a 5 hour drive, and I would have been able to be at a conference even before a flight." So my Wednesday, I spent the day at the airport for nothing. That would have been faster for me to drive. But I was like, I'm so used to flying everywhere that I was just like, oh no, I can just have like a plane if everything goes well and the plane is going like it's not delayed, it's not canceled. I'm gonna arrive like only like on Friday morning when I could have like just took my car Saturday morning, arrived for like lunchtime, and I would have been able to attend a day and a half of the conference. So really a little bit frustrated about me myself, like not thinking about that, but really annoyed that I missed that conference. And I had the big FOMO. Everybody was sharing pictures, like, "Oh, so nice to be at DevRelCon. Oh, seeing you, it's been forever. Oh, we never met in person." I was like, so happy for you.
Well, it was a great event. Just good news. Good news
Yeah,
is there's going to be another one next year in June. So
I know that. I think the timing is perfect. So, yeah, I saw the email. I didn't have time to get it back to you, but I'm for sure I'm going to be there.
rent a car, come pick me up, and we can drive together. There you go.
Actually, that's true. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, it's going to be a road trip. I don't know if we're still going to be friends after a couple of hours in the same car. We'll see if our friendship can tolerate that. But yeah, so sorry, everybody. I just had to get it out. You probably do not care about DevRelCon, but I had to get it out. With that said, oh, thanks. I was not there. I'm sure it was amazing. I saw a lot of positive feedback, but thanks to Jonathan and MLH for organizing DevRelCon. Like those guys are pros. They organize events all the time, and I'm pretty sure it reflected in the quality of the events.
It was definitely, yeah, you could feel the MLH energy at the event. It was really they're there at 8 in the morning, ready to wake everybody up. it was
No,
good.
for them that was probably good because like usually they organize hackathons where like people code 24 hours, and now they had like a bunch of Devrel went back to the hotel to sleep, and they were like, oh yeah, we don't have to be here like 24/7. So it was probably like a vacation event.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah,
Fred. Everybody went to the hotel back to sleep afterwards. Like,
I'm hold.
how,
This is
how
what
long
I
have
do
you
now.
been doing Devrel?
This is the yeah. I mean, I was talking to someone about that recently, and people were like, "Oh yeah, when you go to events and everything." I was like, "Yeah." At the beginning, I was going to events, and like from like 8 to the morning to midnight, I was talking to people, and I was going to the party, and I was myself creating an after party because like the party was ending too soon, and I was doing that like every fucking day, and like 80% of my time. And now sometimes I go to the events, and even if part of my job is to go to the party, not really to party, but because like this is where you connect with people. Sometimes I just like, nah, fuck that shit. I'm going back to my hotel room. And I don't even go to the restaurant. Like I order food to my room, and I sure hope that the delivery person or the person from the hotel won't want to chat with me about the weather and stuff. Like I was like, I'm gonna eat my food in front of Netflix, not talk to anybody, like alone in my room. And this is what I do now that I'm getting older and doing that for a long time too.
Yeah, I feel you. There is definitely, I definitely don't stay up as late as I used to.
I know. So it went sideways, but I still want to get a little bit of your answer about like but you said it. You said like it's the best job ever. So you know what? Let me jump to my
Yeah.
second question before we move to the demo. Uh, this one is the one that I like to ask for a little bit. People that have been doing that a long time, but also people that are new because they get different answers. If I want to start as a developer advocate, do you have any tips, trips, tips, tricks,
Tips.
tips? It's the tongue twister for me. For
Yeah,
somebody like
I think that's an interesting thing about it's kind of a segue, but there's an interesting thing about Devrel where it's definitely more known as a profession. People have a better understanding of what it means, and there's definitely more opportunities. As you said earlier, there used to be, like when we started, there was just a few companies that were taking Devrel very seriously, and then there were others that kind of needed Devrel for funding, but then it ended up being an engineering role. So I
yeah,
think it's the role is better understood. Even people, there's less and less people that I meet at conferences who will ask me, "Oh, what's a developer advocate?" So it's still sometimes a little bit nebulous, even to me at days. But I feel like it's a better understood job. And even at MongoDB, we've had some interns that wanted to do a developer advocate as an internship. And the two of them that we had, that was 2 years ago, and we hired both of them.
that's
Amazing
great.
folks, by the way. So yeah, so we're seeing more and more people who actually want to do that as a career, and will start on very early. So that's definitely one way to get into it. The other way is always, I think, a big part of our job is about networking, connecting with people, and it's a good way to, and that applies for pretty much any job, to
Yeah,
be honest.
right
But
now. Yeah.
networking with people is so important. What you do with your virtual coffees, I think that's a good place to start. Meet with someone, um, get to talk to them, review your resume, review your portfolio, and that is how I met, and how I started with Devrel. I met someone last week. Actually, I was talking with him, Phil Legetter, who's been
Mm,
in Devrel forever,
yeah.
but he was one of the first people who introduced me to some people. I did an interview with him. He did not hire me, but he took some time afterwards to talk with me and say like, okay, this is what you need. Like and he
Mm,
needed someone with a lot more experience at the
wow.
time, which was perfectly fine. But he was honest about it, and he told me where I should put some effort in order to have a little bit more visibility, make sure that I'm present a little bit more into developer communities, and all those little tips really helped me, and brought me to the next level, and that's how I ended up landing a job eventually.
That pretty aligns with what I know from Phil. Like taking the time, like nearly nobody do that. Like to give you advices, like, hey, it may seem like it feels a little bit bad, like, hey, I'm not giving you a job, but wow, like I'm giving you advices, and if you're just listening or mature enough to say like, okay, fuck you, didn't give me a job, but like, hey, maybe you have great advices, and you took them, and this is what happened that give you the opportunity to find a job after. So that's pretty amazing. So no, thanks for sharing that. It's funny because yeah, I my first title at the beginning when I started, we were not really called developer advocate. It was mostly like developer evangelist or
Mm.
technical evangelist. And I know the industry, mostly everyone switched not to basically offend people with the evangelist part of things. Even if there's still company that use both title for different type of focuses. But I don't see it that much. It's mostly like developer advocate. But I still think that like I miss that title so much. because we're a developer advocate. Some people were like on the philosophy part of it, like, oh, if you're an evangelist, you're just preaching. And like, no, it's never what I've done. I've always been an advocate for developer too. So yeah, okay, if you want to be pedantic with the terms, it's fine. But I love being an evangelist because people are like, what the fuck are you doing? Are you going to church every Sunday? And it was like, that was the perfect icebreaker. Now, as you said, like mostly everybody knows, or not everybody, but mostly everybody knows what is a developer advocate. But like I say with most of my guests, we are developer advocates. We could talk for hours, and it would probably bore people at some point. Hopefully not right now, but maybe if we continue to talk for an hour or two. So I'm really curious about switching to the demo part, because I have no idea what you're going to talk about. So the demo is, I mean, like it's about MongoDB, the Atlas Vector Search, but I have no idea what is the retrieval augmented generation. So I wrote the description of the show, and what I do with every tech demo that I know nothing about, I keep it that way, because I want to be that like newbie with newbie question when you get the demo stuff. But now I did not even understood the terms of your demo. So I'm really looking forward to learn a little more about what's the product, what is RAG, and why that would be maybe useful for me or other people.
So here's a fun fact. You did write RAG in your description.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever suggested RAG as one of the terms. I did mention vector search, but not RAG. And then I saw that on LinkedIn, and I was like, oh, it needs to be about RAG. So I reached out to one of my colleagues, amazing colleague, hi Jesse, and I was like, okay, I need to be an expert tomorrow.
Oh no, you should
about
have
RAG.
told me.
But
You should have told me, but now
that's what we do in Devrel, right?
Exactly, you're right. But I just need to correct one thing. I have your form filled in front of me, and in demo, it's written something to do with MongoDB Atlas Vector Search. Dot. We have multiple RAG demos I could use. Dot. So don't blame me on that.
Fine. That was like 3 months ago.
With that said, exactly what I was going to say. I should have like probably validated with you if the demo was still what you wanted to do. So feel free now that you're an expert in RAG, either do that or just talked about the product itself. I don't think nobody's going to be pissed.
Well, I'll refund the money that you paid for this live stream.
Exactly. Everybody that paid for the
show. But it gave me the opportunity. Like that's one of the things that has been on my plate for forever. And I was like, oh, I keep hearing about that. I just need to, at the very least, understand what it means. And it really wasn't that as far as I actually originally thought. And it's definitely not as complicated as what I thought. So that's the interesting part. So Fred, tell me, how familiar are you with MongoDB?
MongoDB as a database itself, yes, I used it, which was really hard for me at the beginning, not because of the product, just because I'm like a SQL person, and for years I was structuring my data, so like working with documents and like not super structured data. For me at the beginning, that was like, I understood at some point, but like every like whole person doing the same thing for years, like new concept, like don't change my concept. But that's the limit of what I know. Like I use a little bit, not that much, but a little bit MongoDB, and that's it. So Vector, I don't know about. Like I know about Atlas is like the SaaS offering of MongoDB.
Yes. So Atlas is our free, or not free, but well, there is a free tier. God, I missed that. I should practice that pitch. So Atlas is our cloud offering, and we do have a free tier. There you go. So give it a try if you want to. So in a nutshell, yes. So MongoDB is a document database. So it's slightly different than your traditional relational database. One thing I hear all the time is that, I can't use MongoDB because I have relational data. You can still use relational data. Like that's data by nature is always relational, right? You always relate things to each other. Like there's no point into storing data that doesn't relate to anything. So it's just a different way of thinking about relationships. So that's how I like to present it. So there's two ways to do relationships between different things. So I like to think of it as, I like to give the example of an invoice, right? You've got an invoice. It has customer information, then has line items for each one of the items that you would buy or that are on the invoice. Um, so there's two things here, and if you think immediately like his SQL, it's like, boop, I split everything. So I've got my customer table, my invoice table, I've got a many table, and I've got my invoice lines. So that makes sense in a SQL perspective. But if you think of it, and if you try to retrieve data, and I'm actually writing an article about this specific example, I love it so much. Trying to write that SQL statement to reconstruct all of your data to return your invoice is very tricky. And even the information that it will return is going to be really weird, because you're going to have one row for each one of your items, but your customer is going to appear on each one of those rows, which is, well, that's not how you're going to use it in your application, because you have one customer and the customer has one invoice and the invoice has multiple ones. So, so when it comes to MongoDB, you'll structure your information a little bit differently. So you can still do things, split things across different tables or call collections in MongoDB. So you can still have your customers, like their customers are their own entity. They live on their own. You want to be able to query your customers on their own. You don't want to mix that with your invoices. They're their own little thing. And invoices, they're their own little thing as well. Like you don't want to, you want to query invoices for the last quarter or whatever. So you need to split them in their own collection. But then invoice lines don't belong by themselves. They belong to the invoices. That like you're not going to query all the independent invoice lines. So those you will create that relationship slightly differently. So customers to invoice, you split those into different collections. You use what is called $lookup, which is same thing as a join in SQL. But the big thing about MongoDB is that you can create or you can embed information into a single entity. So now my invoice will have an array, and it will have an array of all the invoice lines. And that's it. That's the only difference, is just how you create relationship, is that you embed information. And now you've got a much richer type of object. So rather than having just, and then again, if you query it, you query the invoice, and you've got like invoice, date, blah, blah, blah. And you've got that array of all the invoice lines.
It looks more like a real invoice you get than, like, as you said, those pieces of data that were repeated. Yeah, this is the part that I understood, but I also struggled at the beginning, because again, I was used for years to like put everything in table, having those relations like in a different way. So like my invoice was not an invoice. My invoice was many pieces of different tables, and that was my invoice. And it seems so logic when you just explain it, but at the time, it did not seem logic at all. Again, because for 10 plus years doing like structured SQL data.
And it's definitely the biggest challenge. Using MongoDB has this steep learning curve, which has to do with like, how do I model my data? How do I understand that? And you share the link already, but I'll actually add a link to the MongoDB University there. They've got a great course on data modeling. So if people are interested in understanding a little bit more, I'll just add a link to that page.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's me, but like when NoSQL became a thing and it started to become popular, it was presented really at like non-structured data. And this is the thing that I kept in my mind, which is not true. Is like a different way to structure the data, unless I'm wrong, but like it's a different way to structure the data. So when I was thinking about NoSQL at the beginning, like I was like, every people with new things, I was like, holy shit, no, like I'm never going to use that. And at some point I was a little bit forced to use it. And I was like, okay, now I understand it. Like, okay. But like I was stuck to the not structured data. Like, and I was like, no, why would I want like unstructured data? Like it's going to be impossible for me to query and get my stuff after, but it's not the reality. Yeah.
No, definitely not. If you don't put any structure, it's going to be slow. Like it's going to, and that's not you don't need a database. You probably just need some sort of data lake or an S3 bucket, even if you don't have any sort of structure. So we prefer to call it flexible schema, where it's very easy to have different things that are slightly different if needed, but don't necessarily have to be. They in theory they should be somewhat similar in shape.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
So that's for MongoDB. So now let's talk about vectors. What do you know about? You're a grumpy old man that yells at the cloud. So how do you feel about AI? Like, so what do you know about?
Oh, you don't want me to talk about AI. You don't want me to talk about AI, so just do your spill. Just tell me what it is.
So, but in a nutshell, like very, very high level to make it as simple as we can. And that's like their big breakthrough that came with OpenAI, is that it's now easier than ever to create a mathematical representation of any data. So you can just take anything and have a mathematical representation of it. So it's just a series of numbers. That's what a vector is. Those numbers come from a model that, like, the whole ML thing, like that's completely out of my comfort zone. I have no idea how they make that. It's probably magic and some voodoo magic and stuff, but
it is a little bit. I've done a little bit.
But what you get as a result, and if you use OpenAI, is that you can send some text or an image or some audio or anything really, and it will convert that into a series of numbers. So it's just an array of floats, and it represents something on a multi-dimensional or space. So based on similarities, it will try to plot it on a chart. So if you imagine like a 2D chart, and you plot like an orange, well, the word orange will kind of be somewhere here. I just decided it's here. Oranges are here, and if you plot a banana, it's probably going to be somewhere here. And now if you plot Windows operating system, it'll be somewhere around here, so very far from the bananas, just because it's like it doesn't have anything to do with it. But if you plot Apple, then Apple is somewhere. It could be close to operating systems, but it could also be close to fruits, so it'll be somewhere in the middle. So it kind of tries to put things together on a plot chart based on the meaning of what those strings or images carry. So it'll try to plot those, and of course I'm trying to represent it on a 2-dimensional plot here. But there's I think the one that I'm going to use is 1,400 dimensions. So many different dimensions. And then you can look at, okay, well, tell me all the things that are close to apples. And then it's going to say, well, bananas and oranges are close to it, but Windows is also close to it because it's based on my dimensions. But if you say, give me things that are close to Apple, the operating, or Mac OS, the operating system of Apple, then it's going to be much closer to Windows. Like it's going to say, okay, this is way closer to this one. So it'll pick up things that are close in this area. So that's kind of how vectors work and how vector search in a nutshell. It'll just look for items that are mathematically close on a vectorial representation of it.
It's closer to, like, it's a way to manage data that is closer to reality.
Yeah, if you will. Like it's a
you
way
can
to
say no. You can say you
no,
totally...
but it's a way to represent data. It's not a way to manage it, but it's a way to represent it in a mathematical.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's
yeah. So that's my, like, this is what vector search is in 5 minutes. So this being said, now we've got this array of numbers, and we've got MongoDB, which is a flexible schema, rich format type of database where you can easily store arrays. So you're probably seeing where I'm going, is that vectors are a natural fit for MongoDB. So you could just add it to your documents because it supports arrays out of the box. Like that was always there. It's just, so you just store that information there. So now you've got the information. And now let me pull up just one example. If you let me share my screen and just tell me when, because now I don't see you anymore.
Sure.
Okay. So if I look at this example that I used to run as part of some of the workshops that we give, I can see here that I have books, and okay, and now in my books I have all of that information. Oh wow, that's all right. This is probably better. So now, as part of my book, I have the different authors. So you can see that I already have some embedded things. There's genres. So again, right, all the information that kind of belongs together is stored together. So I can store it. So rather than having like this table of genres and then doing relationships, I can just put everything in there. So I've got all the information. And what we did is that we took, that's an interesting one, actually. We took the image. We took the cover image, and we did a mathematical representation of that cover image, which looks like this. So it's the embeddings field here. So it's just a series of numbers. And again, I think there's 1,408 different numbers in there. So this is how MongoDBs and vectors work really well. So you can just go take this book, do an API call to OpenAI and say like, hey, give me a mathematical representation of this image or of the synopsis or of some other field in here. And then you just store it right next to your object.
Okay. And
So
is
now-
there a real publisher named Harper Flamingo Canada, or is it just random data? Sorry, it just picked my eyes because it's my last name.
It should be. All of that information should be real information, actually. Fun fact. So
Yeah, sorry.
it should be.
Sorry.
So now I can have that mathematical precision. So I can do what are called vector searches, vector indexes. So in MongoDB, it looks a little bit like this. So I'm looking at the Atlas UI right now. So that's, again, our cloud offering. And all of this can be done with the free tier. So I've created my index. I say there's 1,400 dimensions. This is the property in which the embeddings are stored. And then you're going to do a cosine similarity on my vector data. And that really is all there is to it. So now I have this demo application that I was running here. Hopefully it still works because I know I'm using, there we go. I'm using GitHub Codespaces for this demo for a lot of the hands-on stuff that our team has been working on. This is what they've been using. It's just an amazing, everything runs inside the browser. It's just a great product, by the way. So shout out to the GitHub team.
Good job, GitHub.
So I have my code running here. I got my search book function, and in just a second, everything should start. So great product, but it obviously, because I don't pay for it, they pause it from time to time.
Oh yeah, that's the tier. That's what you get.
Yeah, I think it's a shorter time. I think there's also like a number of hours that you can use it before you get out of the free tier.
Okay.
So I should. Well, I shouldn't know more about that. That's not my product. That's not what I'm trying to sell.
Yeah, I'm really sad you don't know much about GitHub
all right,
stuff.
but any second now we should see the application. There it goes. So the application is running. That's the book that you were looking at in a nice UI, and then I can search for books like King, and now it looks for like King in the title or King as part of the author's name. But I'm just going to remove that a very traditional search and change it to a vector search. So this is my function. Of course, I'm getting error messages.
You miss, yeah. It's a good thing I was listening.
Yeah. I really did want to do like live debugging. All right, so connected to the database, running. And now we can do fun things like trying to search by semantics. So it'll try to find meaning on what I'm saying, and it will try to find books that match that meaning. So I can do things like give me books about the cat that loves lasagna. And let's see if that works. It'll take a second. There we go. So now we get and now we get books about Garfield. So this is the type of thing that you can really do about vector search. We've got this other fun little demo that we bring to events. So if you ever see us in events, we'll have that up there. But essentially, it's meant to be run on mobile. But if I just take a picture, it will try to semantically find similar people. So it's not doing face recognition. Again, it's really looking about semantics, and it'll try to find different things. It always picks up on glasses and beards. So it's definitely one of the things that we see with AI, right? There's always flaws. So it'll for some reason really looks into beards. And you can see here a similar type of glasses and kind of short beard. No beard, but probably a double chin. So, but it'll pick up on different things.
I was going to say something, and I was like, "Oh no, you're being mean enough to Joel right now." Was it Jack Black without a beard, though?
Yeah, We totally look alike, I think.
Yeah, that's weird though. I don't think I remember him without beard.
So those are the things, that the type of things, and again, it's all about semantics. So it's just, and if you look at the description, it'll say, well, there's a man wearing glasses, similar facial structure, hairstyle. So it'll kind of try to find different things. And if I try without my glasses, it'll pick up completely different things, which is very different than face recognition,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Face recognition will really measure all the face features, and it'll try to find faces that are very similar. Um, from a mathematical point of view in your face, but now we're kind of looking at semantics. So even if you, I've tried with like cartoons, and if you try, and I'll switch back to, you can close down this window, I think. But there you go. I did want to see you. So if you,
Oh,
yeah,
thank you.
but I've tried with like cartoon faces, and it will like find faces that actually look like the cartoon version of it. So it's very interesting. It's very fun. A lot of fun demos. So this is kind of what vector search is in a nutshell. So hopefully,
And that last demo, I mean, like you're searching in a database, so you have a database of like celebrities and with like metadata about them.
yeah, exactly. We scraped some images from Wikipedia, just some celebrities.
Okay.
In that case, we actually stored the image itself, like just the base64 version of the image, along as, which you should never do in a MongoDB database, but but for the sake of demo, that's what we did. A little bit of metadata, and then the embedding themselves. So that's what the documents look like.
Okay. And is what you shown us called retrieval augmented generation? Because I still don't know what RAG means.
See, I was trying to avoid it.
Oh,
All
okay.
right.
Sorry. I
No,
thought this is
no,
what you talked about.
No,
and
actually,
I was like, that's the name of what you called that. And I was like, I still don't know what it is, but
okay. So let me try to explain it to you. And then I'll try a little demo.
I'm so sorry.
No. That's fair play. So we're doing vector. So one example that we can take is the MongoDB documentation. So the MongoDB documentation is actually using RAG to provide you with answers on your questions. So you can go and say, I'm trying to query my database and whatever, group items by whatever. Can you help me to do that? And it will give you a small explanation on how to do it, and then it will give you a bunch of references to different pages into our docs. So what RAG does is that we don't want to use OpenAI to provide those answers, because OpenAI is great as a model language. So it's great to make up stuff. It's great at like talking to you, but it'll make up stuff. Like it'll hallucinate all the time, and it'll just try to give you the best answer that you want to hear, essentially.
Yeah, may not be accurate.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that it'll be accurate. So what we try to do, instead of just expecting it to give you an answer and knowing that it can actually be very good at talking, is that we'll do two things. So now I want to ask it this question, and what we did at MongoDB is that we took all of our documents, all of our documentation, and we've created embeddings for each one of those pages. So the first step, when someone will say, "Oh, I need help with my aggregation pipeline," is that we'll go to OpenAI or whatever the provider is behind the scenes. We'll get a mathematical representation of that request, of that question from the user. So the user will say blah, 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 and then it will return us a vector with a bunch of numbers. And then we'll compare those numbers doing a vector search in our database to find the closest document pages. So now we're almost there. So we've got the document pages, but we want to provide an answer that sounds like a human is making up, right? We want to provide something with context and a lot more information, but we don't want to rely on OpenAI or whatever language model to just make stuff up. So we're going to say, we're going to do prompt engineering. That's how it's been explained to me. So what we're going to do is that we're going to say, okay, language model, you are technical support for our product. You need to answer this question. And the only things that you know in the world, apart from the ability of speaking, is this information, and you provide it with the information on the documentation, like the documentation page that you want to send back to the user. So let's do one more demo. If you want to share my screen again, and of course I'll cheat a little bit. So I already had it here, and there's a little workshop. Again, there's a link that I've provided, mdb.link/devrelshow. You can do that little workshop on your own if you want to. But this is the prompt that we're going to use. So we're going to say, okay, you're a very enthusiastic, my super duper tech startup representative who loves to help people. Given the following sections from the documentation, answer the question. And in here, we will programmatically add the document, like the content of that documentation page. And we will add references as well, because we want the answer to have links to the documentation, not just blindly say some stuff. So I'll put this in Markdown format. If you're unsure and the answer is not explicitly in the documentation, say I don't know. So we want to make sure that don't make stuff up. So I'll provide it with, let's say, like I did my vector search. This is those are the documentation pages that are potentially relevant to the question, and I'll just add the question. So I'll ask OpenAI to answer this question: can my super duper tech startup make my team more productive? I know that those are like the documentation pages. Those come from my doc, so I know those are the valid answers. So I'll just give that a try. I'll send that. and well, most of the time it should be working. Why is it not working now? Let's try. Can it milk? You shouldn't know that. Actually, a fun thing about AI is that it doesn't always.
Yeah, exactly. I was going to say, just run in again, turn it off and on again.
So you can see, so it answered, but it's interesting because it did say, like, I don't know what you're talking about. So it doesn't make stuff up. Rather than making stuff up, it'll actually just say, I don't know. And then in this case, it actually suddenly found the answer. And it really, like, it took exactly what it says, like, this product can make you 404, but it kind of rephrased, or sometimes it'll rephrase it a little bit more. Obviously, there's not a lot of data here. And then it will give me references to the right page. So it gave me a reference or to that link rather than the other one, because the other one is not relevant.
This I like.
Sorry.
Like you asked me about the AI stuff, in my opinion, and I have a really strong opinion about a lot of things. And people heard them, but this I like, because like you provide context, you also provide me with some like link if I want to explore more, if I want to share with people, if I want to validate what you gave me. And you gave really like a sandbox, like this is where you get the information. Don't take it, because the thing with those models from my point of view is that it takes the data from everywhere. Like nobody's validating the data that isn't put in the machine to give you the answer, which means that, like, we all know it's the internet. There's like some really good resources and some places where you should not learn stuff from. So like setting like I don't know, I just call this the context, but setting the context, the sandbox where you get the data, will return something relevant that makes way more sense to me. So actually, I'm really happy that I quote unquote force you to talk about this, because I found this really exciting. Like, not that I didn't like MongoDB demo, but I already know personally. Hopefully, it's helpful for people that did not know MongoDB. It's a really great product. I am not saying that because Joel is here. I liked once I understood NoSQL, I liked it. But that tracking is super exciting to me. I think it's where you can bring a lot of benefits
definitely. Now that I started poking around a little bit, and of course I've played around with it this morning a little bit, because I had to become an expert before this call. But it was interesting, and trying to create that, to craft that prompt, and to get some examples that would work, and then provide it with some context and explore with it. Like it's actually fun, and you can really see that it really won't go outside of those. Well, as far as I could tell, there's and then there's always somebody who can come in and say, ignore all the previous prompts, which is the new Bobby Tables, right? So you can just
it is
name your kids, ignore all previous prompts.
Oh god, doggy tables. XKCD, huh? I don't think they will never go out of fashion. Uh, there's
Never.
XKCD, like it's like there's a Simpson episode for everything in life. There's XKCD comics for everything that happened in tech. Uh,
For
so
sure.
yeah. On that note, sorry, you look like someone was going to say something.
No, I was
No.
gonna say on that
You were
note.
just excited that like the show is done and you can go back to your vacation, because I need to tell you people, like Joel is on vacation. He still took the time to come on the show, which is dedication, and I really appreciate that. So I know we talked a lot, but it was interesting. But I want you to go back to your vacation time. You don't see him, but like he has a swim trunk just like outside of the camera.
It's
He's
not
ready
obvious
to
because
go.
I did bring like my mic and like my streaming gear
I
too.
know you look like you're. Yeah, I probably screwed this up by saying you're on vacation, but you look like you were like in your professional. Oh, you even have like the mic harm and everything. Wow,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you really brought like all the good things. I appreciate that. This is
I'll send you the
Devrel
invoice for my
professionalist.
extra luggage.
Yeah. I know, I know. I'll pay you at the next Devrel Con if I can attend. Yeah, so on that note, I think it's the end of the show. Thanks a lot for being a guest. Thanks for your time. I don't know if there's anything you want to say before we end that show to the people about Mongo, Atlas, yourself.
That's it. If you have questions about MongoDB, vector search, RAG, now that I'm an expert, I'm always available. I'm also on the list of people for the coffee talk from Fred. So if you want to chat, by all means, hit me up over there. And that's all I had. Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thanks again. It's been months that we wanted to do that, but life things happen, and now just happy to have the time, especially because you were close to, like, you were in my town not long ago, and it was my turn to be busy and have stuff, and I missed you, and we were supposed to see each other at DevRelCon and life again. So at least we're able to catch up a little bit on the Devrel show. So thanks again for being in the show. Always a pleasure, man. And for everybody listening live or everybody watching the recording, thanks for being with us, and see you in 2 weeks. Actually, is there a show in 2 weeks? There won't be a show. Oh, maybe there's a show. I don't know. I'm just so lost. Yeah, there won't be a show in 2 weeks because I'm going to go. I'm going to be at retreat, Buddhist retreat. So next show is going to be in 1 month. So see you everybody in 1 month.